Hi guys, and welcome to Total Technik. In this video we are working on the Audi A6, S6 or RS6, the C5 model. I'm going to show you how to safely remove one of your wheels. This is obviously a beginner's video, so if you're a seasoned professional this won't be the video for you. But for people that are just getting into working on their own cars and need a little bit of help and a little bit of advice, a little bit of a push in the right direction, I'm going to start with the basics, how to remove a wheel. So let's do it. Okay, now to remove a wheel, what we're going to do before we actually jack the car up is you just need to slacken off the wheel nuts. The reason for this is we're on very tight initially, and so what you want to do is, with the weight of the car stopping the wheel being able to turn, you just want to crack those nuts off just a little bit, so when you do lift it in the air they can be removed easily. If you jack the car up first and then try and remove the wheel nuts, what you'll find is you actually be trying to turn the entire wheel, which put quite a lot of strain on your gearbox, or if it's automatic, or your parking brake, or whatever you might have. So that's kind of not the best way to do it. So whilst the weight is still on the wheel, what you want to do is just literally crack them off just a little bit, like so. That's enough. So you just take that initial, that really tight bit, just get rid of that. So we can do that on all 5, and then we're going to be ready to jack it up. Tight one. And also, if you have a locking wheel nut, which we have on this particular car, obviously you're going to need to use the locking wheel nut tool. Exactly the same thing applies. I'm just going to slacken that off a little bit, like so, and once all 5 are done we can jack this up, and then it'll be a lot easier to get off. So to be able to jack the car up, you need to first identify the location of the front and rear jacking points. They vary a little bit, but on most Audi models, apart from the big kind of 4x4s, they tend to be very similar. So if you have a look underneath up underneath the sill down here, when you climb underneath and you have a look at this for yourself, what you should hopefully see as you look underneath is you'll see you've got your plastic side skirt, and that comes down, and then you'll have a small gap, and you have a flat straight piece of metal, which hopefully you can see that pretty well on the video there. So that is literally your jacking point. So what you want to do, obviously that's a line, a straight line if you like, and what you're going to do with the middle of your jack is you're going to want to put the jack head so that it's dead centre, if that makes any sense, in the middle of the circle. So if you have a quick look at the jack next, and I'll show you that, and then we'll put the two together and get this car up. Okay, so we're going to be using a small trolley jack to lift this car. The car we're lifting today is an RS6. Any jack that's bigger than this, such as the big trolley jacks we've got here, don't actually fit underneath the sill on the RS6. So we're using this little jack, which will probably be quite similar to what you'll be using yourself at home. Now, one thing to remember is that jacking point that we just showed you is literally a straight piece of metal. So when we slide this under the car, we're going to be lifting that piece of metal straight up in this manner. And one thing to point out is the cups on most jacks usually spin in this nature. As you can see, they've got the kind of raised sections on them. So what you want to do is you want to kind of fit that piece of metal when you lift it, kind of fit it in the groove if you like, so it goes straight across in that manner. What you don't want to do is, in an ideal world, is to put it kind of a bit cack-handedly onto the top of these kind of turrets, as it were, just in case it slips and drops a few millimetres. What we want to do, keep it nice and safe, straight down the middle, and then it can actually slide or get away from you as well. So that's the best way of doing it. So let's get it under there. So carefully slide this into place. Like so. Try to work around the camera a little bit. I don't want to shove my head in the way too much. I just want to come down and see what I'm doing. There we go. So you want to do is slowly lift it up. Hopefully you can see that all right there. I'm just checking that I've got it in that little groove that I told you about, dead centre in the middle of the cup there. Checking I'm happy with that. Once I'm happy with that, What you do is you pump away on the jack. As you can see, the whole car will start to lift. Now you've got to keep lifting it, depending on what you're doing. You're going to keep lifting it until the front wheel is definitely clear of the ground. There. Now don't be silly and slide your hand underneath it to test whether it's high enough under the ground. Get it to a point where you can see that it definitely is. So there we go, the wheel is now off of the ground. I'm happy with that, so I can continue. Okay, so now I'm going to remove the nuts one by one. The last nut you want to remove is the one that you've got closest to top centre, because obviously when you take these nuts out, the wheel will want to fall off. And if you only leave one in the bottom, the whole kind of top of the wheel will try and fall forward. So whatever one's the closest to centre top, which is very clearly this one in this particular case, this is going to be my last one that I remove. And a good little tip for you is when you're jacking it up, as I mentioned before, you want to get it so the tyre's just off of the ground. Some of these wheels can be quite heavy, and if you end up lifting them, you know, if you're lifting them kind of a foot off the ground, then when you pull them forward, the wheel can fall, hit the brake caliper, chip the inside of the paint work on your wheel. It's not worth it. But if you've got it nice and low to the ground, you're literally, once those come off, you literally just be able to slide it straight out. You don't have to lift it off or manhandle it too much. So that's the last one that we're going to do. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to start here at the bottom. You've got an air ratchet gun, something like that. Fantastic. You can do this in milliseconds. If not, using something like we are today, like so. Now it's always good practice as well, is to work in a star pattern. This applies more to when you're doing them up rather than when you're undoing them, but just kind of as a practice, if you like, something that you get used to doing because you do it a lot, is you do it in a star pattern. So you go from this point to this point to this point to this point to this point. And the reason that's important when you do it up is because you're evenly distributing the weight between the different points around the hub. So it's a good practice to get into. What tends to happen is when you do a lot of them, you tend to undo them in the star pattern as well as doing them up, even though it's really not necessary. It's something worth pointing out. So just carefully take those out like so. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the other two out now, so we're just leaving the top centre one in place. Okay, just so happens in my case that the top centre one is the locking wheel nut. Doesn't make a big difference. So what I'm going to do is snapping this off and have a quick look, see if it wants to. Yeah, it's going to come off quite quickly. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put my foot next to the bottom. No, I say next to, not underneath. So obviously should the jack fail, you do not want a wheel falling on your foot. So what I'm doing is I'm pushing it in sideways with my foot, just to keep the face of the wheel level with the hub, because otherwise the bottom will want to pop out, and that's when the kind of wheel will fall off the hub. Just try and keep control of the wheel as you get it off, and you'll be absolutely fine. So that's all 5 out, so it's ready to come off. So now as we're nice and close to the floor, as I said before, we're literally just going to slide this wheel forward. So I'm just going to pop this forward, like so. Just pull that forward, because obviously we separated the wheel from the hub there. And we've got very nice brake calipers on here, so what I don't want to do is twist it side to side, because I could hit the brake calipers. So I'm just going to slide this wheel straight across the floor, like so, and that is your wheel removed. So once you finish doing whatever work it is that you're doing on your car, you want to put your wheel back on. What you want to do is just lift it carefully up onto the hub, and what you can do is you can actually, if you shine the torch into one of the holes, you can actually turn the wheel on the hub to ensure that you've got the hole in the wheel lines up with the hole in the hub, so you can actually get the screw in. Once you're happy that they're aligned, what you want to do is just gently get them going like so. There. And then, like I mentioned before, good practice, especially when you put them back on and tightening them, is to go in that star formation. So I've just put this one on here. Next one will be this one, then this one, then this one, then this one. That's the kind of the correct way of doing it. That's the good practice way of doing it. Okay, so what you want to do as well is when you come to a point, not necessarily on your first one, when you get into a point where you want to tighten them up a little bit, just a little bit of pressure on them like so, because what you'll actually do is you actually retighten them to the correct torque setting when you've got them back on the ground. You won't tighten them up to full pressure, to full tightness whilst the car's in the air like it is at the moment. So just bear that in mind, just nice and tight, nice and firm, and do all 5, and then we can lower it back down. So when the wheel's back on and you're happy, ready to lower this back down. So first thing you want to do is have a little look around the general work area, make sure there's nothing under the wheel when you lower this down. Obviously you don't want to lower the car down onto anything. So once you're happy that there's nothing that is completely free, it's time to slowly release the jack. The method of doing this can vary a little bit depending on what jack you've got. Some jacks you kind of wind backwards. If you've got a wind up one, you wind it back the other way. Other jacks have a handle that you can slowly turn, and that will release the mechanism. What we've got on this one is we've got a little release, a little separate release down at the bottom here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put that on, snap that in, and just turn it very, very slowly, just so you can just start to see the car moving. That's too fast. There, that's about right. And I'm just going to very gently just let that come down to the ground. I'll speed it up a little bit just for the sake of the video, like so. There, just let the suspension slowly fall back into place. That's it. And then once it's definitely stopped moving, you can undo the jack a little bit more. Allow you to push it all the way down, and then you can just slide it out from the car, and that's job done. Now to finish the job of putting your wheels back on properly, you're going to need one of these, which is a torque wrench. And basically what this does is you can adjust the settings on this to whatever the factory spec might be of the wheel nuts that you're tightening. On a lot of Audis, including this one, the torque spec is 120 Newton meters. So basically you slacken the handle off, you adjust the handle on this scale so that it reads 120, tighten that back up into position, and then you put it onto the wheel nut that you want to tighten up. And what you'll find is when it gets to 120 Newton meters, it will stop turning and actually click, and that tells you you're at 120 Newton meters, which is where you need to stop. So if I just push down on that, you see there, it goes to a certain point, and then it'll click. That's 120 Newton meters right there. So I just do the same thing on the second one again. So again, push that down. That's already at 120. Or near it, damn it. Do the same on this bottom one here. There. Okay, so you want to do that obviously for all of your wheel nuts. It's very important that you do tighten them to the correct spec. You don't want to be kind of banging them back on with an air gun, something like that, because if you do it with an air gun, they're going to be on really, really tight, and should you need to remove one in an emergency using something from the car's toolkit, which is likely going to be quite a short wrench, you'll just never ever get them off without an air gun. So they should be done to the correct factory spec. You can find out what the spec is for your particular model if you go onto Google, search your model and type in wheel nut torque settings, and you should be able to find out quite easily. But a really, really useful tool to have, and pretty essential when it comes to refitting your wheels. So best of luck.